Hello and welcome to the Swan Song Project Podcast. My name is Ben Buddy Slack and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project and the host of this podcast. The Swan Song Project is a charity. We're based here in Leeds, England, and we help people who are facing into their lives or dealing with a bereavement to write and record an original song. We believe in celebrating lives, making memories and leaving legacies. If you'd like to find out more about the charity, you can visit our website, which is swansongproject.co.uk. The podcast features songwriters. Each episode I have a different songwriter on. I ask them to share with me one of their songs. We talk about how they wrote it. I ask them to share a songwriting tip, and I also ask them for a song that's meaningful to them in some way related to bereavement. This episode features Edwina Hayes. Edwina is a great singer-songwriter. She writes a lot of beautiful songs, and we cover some really interesting ground on here. We talk a lot about songwriting retreats and songwriting kind of workshops. What Edwina runs some herself. So we talk quite a lot about the benefits of them and how some of those work. And it's dedicated to a friend of Edwina's called Linda, who sadly passed away recently. So we talk about one of the songs that she wrote. So it's a great conversation, and I think you're really going to enjoy it. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We're really trying to build up more of our audience for this, so we appreciate any support you can give us with that. But without further ado, here is Edwina Hayes on the Swan Song Podcast. Enjoy. Okay, today I'm here with Edwina Hayes. Thanks for joining me, Edwina.
Hi, you're really welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for doing it. I'm really looking forward to talking to you. So for anyone new to the show, this is the Swan Song Podcast. Each episode I have a different songwriter on. We're doing it in 3 sections. So first we're going to have one of Edwina's songs, and we're going to talk about how she wrote it. Then in section 2, I'll ask Edwina for a songwriting tip. And in section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Edwina in some way relating to bereavement. Okay, so over to you, Edwina. Which song of yours have you chosen to speak to us about today?
Oh, thank you. Well, I had a big think about it, and I thought with the theme of your charity and the theme of the podcast, I thought I'd pick one that did kind of relate to bereavement a little bit too. So the song I've chosen is called Call Me.
Beautiful. So we'll have a listen to that now. So this is Call Me by Edwina Hayes.
Call me and I will come. See how I will run. It's been so many years, but you're still the one. Just call my name and I will come. Ready as I can be. I know you'll send for me, and I'll be waiting here so patiently. I'm ready now as I can be. Maybe I'm a fool, loving you like I do, but I miss you every day, and I see you in everything. You're every song I hear and every word I say. I miss you more every day. been so many years, but you're still the one. Just call my name and I will come. Just call my name and I will come.
Okay, that was Call Me. Yeah, it's a beautiful song, Edwina. What can you tell us about writing it and why you chose it for the podcast today?
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, I wrote that song back in 2005, and it sort of seemed to fall out of the air. And I've got friends who are songwriters, and they talk about those odd songs that come along that seem to write themselves. And I do wish that they all came along like that, but they don't. But in 2005, sadly, my Uncle Bob passed away very suddenly in the July. And in August, we were all planning and it was all arranged to go to my cousin Marcus's wedding, Marcus and Kate. And Marcus is my Uncle Bob's middle son. So of course it was such a shock, and all the family came together. We were all going to be coming together in August for my cousin's wedding, which none of us had been together um, for many years. It's my dad's side of the family. So my Uncle Bob was my dad's brother, and we didn't really see that side of the family very much. My mum and dad divorced when I was really young, but they were always just lovely cousins, lovely aunties and uncles. We never got to see them much. So this big family reunion planned for Marcus's wedding was going to be such a happy occasion. Yet 6 weeks before, we all had to come together unexpectedly early for Uncle Bob's funeral. So it was really, really sad. And but Marcus decided to go ahead with the wedding anyway. And of course, that was very bittersweet. And I remember when Marcus got up, Uncle Bob would have done a speech at the meal after the wedding. I sang at the wedding as well, one of my songs. Marcus and Kate asked me to sing it, which was lovely. Families are amazing. They're always your first audience, really, and your friends.
Yeah.
And even though my family have come to loads of gigs, like ranging from, the very first few in the 90s when there's just like a man and a dog and a few family members, right through to opening for somebody, at the Albert Hall, they've been there all the way. And yet he still said, come and sing at my wedding. And he got up to do a speech, and he's so lovely. And he got really choked up, like at one line in, and he just stopped and he just waited very quietly while he composed himself. And it was more moving than if he'd cried. I'll never forget that, because he wanted just to talk about who should have been there. And so that was a really sad occasion. So in between the Uncle Bob's funeral and so sometime around end of July, I'd gone round to see my mum, and I smoke. I shouldn't smoke. I did smoke then, and I used to go and have cigarettes in my mum's garage, and there's an old guitar in there. And I just got this idea for a song, and I was sitting on the stool in the garage and with my ashtray, and I got an idea for a song and hadn't realised how long I'd been in there. And my mum's friend Michelle was a pop round, and she'd nipped out to get some ice cream, I think, from the freezer. And she said, Edwina, what are you doing in here? And I said, well, I've got this idea for a song. And she oh, play us a bit. I played her a bit. And she said, oh, that's lovely. You must finish that off. And she got the ice cream, went back in, and I was just like out there the whole night writing this song. And then I went in and played it, and it just seemed to come. And I just remember it thinking it was kind of a song about a love song, but also a song about missing someone. It just seemed to be completely half and half. A song, a love song for somebody like Marcus and Kate's wedding, and then a song about losing somebody and missing someone. So I always just think about Uncle Bob and Marcus whenever I sing that song. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a lovely song. So you say that was between the funeral and the wedding, you say that came to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it just seemed to come out the air, and I've just gone in for a cigarette. So yeah, and there's this old guitar that I used to keep it in mum's garage, and I just pulled it down and started having a little go, and there we are. So yeah, I just thought that would be a nice one to include on the episode.
Yeah, it's a really lovely song. And so you weren't really thinking much when you were writing it, you say? Was it just kind of came out? And did it
No,
come out words and music at the same time, pretty much?
it did. It did. With me, when I get an idea for a song, it tends to be a line of words with a melody. And then I go to the guitar and try and work out what I would play, because I just play chords to accompany myself, and I've always played by ear. So that call me and I will come. So I thought, well, that would need some and I just worked out a little bit of a guitar accompaniment, and then I just carried on with it, and it just kept on writing. And I didn't have all the words that night, and what tends to happen is I'll get sort of the first little bit, and then I'll realize where the melody then needs to go, and then you quite quickly realize, work out whether the bit that you've got with the lyric is going to be a chorus or a verse, because once the melody starts coming, you sort of then get a bit of an arrangement, and so you work out what's going to happen next, really. So I ended up with all of the melody and most of the ideas, and then I just sort of fill in the rest of the lyrics, really, and I try and make them tie in, so that it matches, length of line and sort of rhymes and scanning, so that it sings the same. Like, if you have two verses, you sort of want them to be sort of similar in length and the way you sing it, and possibly even rhyming a little bit between verses and that kind of thing. And that is quite fun, actually, honing it. And quite often the first draft of a song, once you start playing and singing it, you sort of you lose loads of words, like you maybe lose an in and a the, you don't need it, or you'll add something in, you might need an extra syllable to make it match. And so that I find that quite fun, doing that. And so with me, I tend to get a line in my head as though it's a song that you already know. Like I've got this one called Nobody's Coming Around, and I got this nobody's coming around, nobody's coming around, and I had that for ages. And then when I sat down with the guitar, it just and thought, well, where would it go next? And then it just kind of, and then, like I said, the melody comes and you find some more words to go in, and it's quite like magic, really. It doesn't happen that way all the time, but yeah, that's how I write most of my songs I've written on my own. Come that way. Yeah. A line of words with a melody to go with. And then actually I also get quite a lot of melody ideas on their own without words. And funnily enough, a friend of mine, a really old friend of mine, he's to do with film and things in London. Every now and again he gets in touch and asks me if I'm free to go and rush and record a demo of something, if he sends it for some project. So a couple of weeks ago I got a message, and there's a film coming up at the end of the year, a British film, and he wanted some songs about drinking, and so I have a song called Pour Me a Drink, and so he let me know he was going to put that forward. And then he said he needed a love song that had to be a love song, but couldn't say the word love or heart, and he needed it like last week. And so he said, I could give you a couple of days if you could come up with something. So I thought, oh my goodness. So what I did, I went to my phone, and I knew that on this phone, and I've got quite a new phone now because I've always had an old one, so I finally got a new one, and I managed to get everything transferred over. And I knew there were all these voice recordings going back years of little snippets of song ideas. And I would have said there was maybe 4 or 5 of those. Well, when I looked, going back to 2015, there were about 30. And it's just, some of them I whistled, God knows why. So it's just the voice note going. Or then there was some where I'm humming it. Clearly, I've just woken up and you can hear the duvet rustling. And I'm going, Well, out of all them, I managed to find, I'd sat down with my guitar and literally sang a sort of la 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 the tune, and ended up using that. And I was like, I don't even remember writing that down, recording that. And I was like, wow. So I did that, and I got the song off, and he wrote back saying, I love it. Can you change this? Can you change that? And I did. It's all gone off. I don't know what's going to happen. And I was telling my friend, I said, God, if I just sat and took one of those ideas a week, and I could have like 20 new songs. I said, that's what I'm going to do. Every week, I'm going to go back and find one of those and write a song with it. And I've not done it. So yeah, the big enemy for me with songwriting is being really lazy and procrastination. So yeah, that was a bit of a surprise. So melody ideas and melodies, and then all the songs I've written, they've come with a bit of a line, and then I've taken that line and that idea and written the rest of the lyrics to go with, So yeah.
That's exciting. That's exciting about the film. Was the So then did you write some lyrics for that, the love song without the word love and heart in?
I did. I wrote some lyrics.
From a little bit of music you found on your phone?
With the music I found on my phone, yeah. And it ended up being a sort of country-ish type one. And it was it was all about if I had to choose, I would pick Anyone But You, so I got this bit of an idea for a song called Anyone But You I can't think about anyone but you. You know, you're the one. And then he liked that, but he wanted it to be more of a funny idea. Like, if I had to go out with somebody, it'd be anyone but you, but really sort of not really, a bit like that. I'm not in love by Tennessee Sea, you know. I'm not in love, you know, I keep your picture, but you know, it doesn't really mean anything, which of course it does. And it was one of those kind of themes. So I thought that was quite fun. It was a bit of a twist on it, you know, so clearly you do like them, but you're pretending that you don't. So it ended up being quite good fun. And so, but I have no idea. Yeah, it'll have Martin Clunes in it, called Mother's Pride.
Oh,
So
well,
who
keep
knows?
keep an eye out for it.
Mother's Pride, yeah.
Yeah.
You never.
So when you were going back and listening to the snippets, was there anything about the one that you chose? Like, did you have any of that like lyrical content in mind of like all the kind of story you were going to tell with it? And then was there anything that you were listening out for, or was it just, I like the sound of this one, I'll try and work on that? Or was there anything particular that made you choose that one?
I don't know. I think it was just I like the sound of this one, and possibly because I'd actually sat and recorded it with a bit of guitar. Maybe just it
Mm.
sounded a little bit more finished. And no, I couldn't tell you what it was. I'll be honest. No, because the lyric I had to sort of, and I don't do that very often. I don't often get commissioned to write something to order, and so no, I just picked that one. And that's the one I picked, and I just made up the words to go with. And yeah, that's an interesting question actually. I
Yes.
wouldn't have remembered if you hadn't asked me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one of the things that I find really interesting of like what, because I used to do that. I used to do a lot where I'd write music and lyrics separately a lot of the time. Then I'd
yeah,
kind of like I'd like pair them, and it
oh
was it
yeah,
was it's really weird of like the what it is about a particular piece of music that would be like, oh, that feels like, oh yeah,
yeah.
of what that decision is in your mind of why a piece of music feels like it should be about a particular type of thing. Or
It's a good point. I'm not sure. That's really interesting you said that. And I'm, you know, I was saying earlier about how you often then tweak
mm,
your songs when you come to perform them. I'm imagining if you've got a load of melodies over here and you've got a load of lyrics here, and you find some lyrics that would go, you then might have to do some tweaking of the melody or the lyric to make it fit, I would imagine. And
mm,
you know, you can often find yourself completely changing something round. And another thing that I often end up doing, I think I've got a first verse, and when I write the second verse and maybe then the last verse, I tend to think, oh, actually, that should be the first verse, and I often
mm.
switch things around that way and mix and match. So yeah. So do you find you have to do a bit of shoehorning and adjusting to fit your lyrics into your melodies?
Yeah, nearly always, yeah.
But it's kind of fun. It's kind of a
It is,
fun thing.
yeah. I really enjoy that part of the process, the kind of editing. I always think of it as like they have the creative kind of splurge phase where it's like you're just kind of letting things come. And then I feel
Yeah.
like it's a very different mindset when I come back and it's more like those little editing kind of details.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, the main thing I think for me is having something on the paper.
Mm,
I think I can, left to my own devices, I can go years without writing anything. But if I sit down and apply myself and get something on the paper, you've got something to work with, and it doesn't matter if it's rubbish. And I've got songwriter friends who literally put time aside every day to sit down. They're very disciplined, and they sit and have a couple of hours writing every day, no matter what it is. It might be rubbish, and I really admire that. And
mm,
I'm 51, and I was thinking, you know, maybe in my 60s, maybe I'll be a bit more organized and do that kind of thing. I've never really done that. I just let inspiration strike, you know, whenever it may. But in this past year or so, I've been hosting some songwriting workshops, which I got asked to do about 10, 12 years ago. I co-hosted a workshop week, songwriting workshop week up in Moniac Moor, which is a little place near Inverness, and it's a creative writing centre run by a lovely couple called Cynthia and Paul. And about 15 years ago, they started coming to my gigs in Inverness. And I go up there, I sort of gig all over. I love my gigs. I'll go all over the place gigging. And they would come to my gigs. And then one day, Cynthia emailed me and said, we have, I don't know if you know this, but we run this Moniac Moor Creative Writing Centre. And what we do is we host a week. People come on Monday afternoon, they stay through till Saturday morning, all the accommodations provided. And we have a tutor, and we have a special guest on the Wednesday, and everybody stays. They can sleep up to 16 people. And they run all these courses from like playwriting, poetry writing, novel writing, you know, any kind of writing, but they'd never done a songwriting one. So they had this idea to do a songwriting week, and they asked me if I would like to be the tutor, and I said, well, I've only ever hosted a little workshop once at the Beverley Folk Festival, our local festival. I said, but I know a guy who does a lot of that, and that was Boo Hewardine, lovely songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
So I rang Boo, and Boo agreed to do it and be the tutor, but he invited me along to be his co-tutor, which was great fun. So we'd had this amazing week, and on the Wednesday night, he plays guitar and writes songs for Eddie Reader. So he asked her to come and be the special guest on the Wednesday night. So she came with her husband, had tea, and then just sat on the settee. It's a lovely, beautiful old sort of building in the middle of nowhere, like a big cottage with a massive big kitchen with a wooden kitchen table, and then a beautiful long lounge with shabby old furniture and a roaring fire. And it was winter, and it was a massive long dining table. And it was brilliant. So she just sat and played and sang for like 2 hours, and it was amazing. So we did it all again the following year and the year after. And then after that, Boo liked it that much. He hires it himself and puts his own workshops on there. And anyway, so the upshot was that years later, a couple of people who've been on those courses, who I'm still in touch with, I said, oh, have you ever thought about doing one, you know, maybe a day one and in the end, I just decided to put one on at my local hotel, hired it for like the afternoon, and said, could I include a carvery lunch? Yes, that's fine. And I just put it up for sale on my website and on my Facebook page, and loads of people booked on. I was like, wow. And we had this amazing afternoon. We all had a lovely carvery dinner after. It was a Sunday, and the hotel were kind of quiet anyway. So I timed it so all the students on the course would have the carvery an hour like after it had finished, because normally it runs till 6. So they just kept it open for another hour, so the hotel got a load of extras, you know, and it was great. And so that was in 2019, 18, 19. And so I did another one, and then I was planning to do a third, and then lockdown happened. And so all this time later, I just decided this year to try again and put a couple on, and they've been really well attended. And so that's why this year I've been doing a lot more writing, because I set exercises for the students during the workshop. And then I think, well, I'll have a go as well. If I'm telling them to do it, I should do it too. So I've ended up with some nice things, little notebooks with some ideas as well. So yeah, definitely feeling the creative songwriting bug for the first time in ages.
Oh, that's really good.
It's really nice, you know. And I'm like, you know, and now I'm going, well, what was I waiting for? Come on, you lazy thing. So, but it's fun. It's really fun. It's nice to just especially if you write something, then you like it, and you think I think you know when something feels good. Not to be a big head, but you sort of know when it's a bit like. But if it feels really good to you, you know, especially as a singer, and you're going to play it. I just, it's a very nice feeling, you know. It's just like a little secret, magical feeling that you've created this thing, and you're really proud of it. So even if no one hears it, it's a nice feeling, you know. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, Boo's brilliant. Boo's a previous guest of this podcast, so anybody's interested in listening to.
I got him in there. I remember looking when you first got in touch and I first heard about your lovely charity from my friend Holly Tamer. I did look at your YouTube and I watched quite a few, but I didn't spot Boo's.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago. I think it was right around the 50s somewhere, episode 50 something, I think. But yeah, Boo's brilliant songwriter, Boo Hewardine.
He's one of these friends I mentioned who's very disciplined. He'll write a lot, and he writes with other people a lot. Now Boo is someone who introduced me to co-writing, and one of the tips I was going to give a bit later, just a little throwaway tip, really, wasn't the main tip I was thinking of, but one of the things I was going to say is if you write with someone else and set an afternoon aside, you will get a song written. That I've always done that, and with Boo especially. And I think it's because you're just bouncing off each other, and there's always that awkward beginning bit where you're a bit embarrassed to let go and actually sing or say an idea that might be a bit rubbish or cheesy. And once you get past that, it's really quite amazing, and it just happens by magic. And I don't know if it's just having someone else there. And sometimes people will send me songs to co-write, and they've started it, and if they've started it for some reason, it feels a bit easier to then get an idea for it, rather than it being my own idea, because I've got loads of ideas that I've started and not finished. And those actually are really good to take into a co-writing session. So basically, you play each other your little ideas you've never finished yourself, and you land on one, for some reason, and then you write that, and that's how it kind of goes. So yeah, he was a brilliant guy to be introduced to back when I started actually songwriting, which was only around about 1999, 2000. So I say only, it was 25 years ago, but I've been singing and playing for years before that, and I used to do covers in the 90s. So my songwriting sort of career really began then, and I started doing gigs, doing my own songs around about 2000. And Boo just saw me playing at a gig in London and came over and said, I really like your songs. Would you like to do some co-writing? And I only had about 3.5 of my own. And I said, well, I didn't know who he was either. I said, yeah. I said, that'd be lovely, thank you. And we swapped emails, and I thought I'd never hear from him again. And I kind of hoped I wouldn't, because I didn't really know what he meant. Well, he followed me up, and we did end up, I'm so glad he did, because he's ended up becoming a really good friend. But yeah, so he will co-write with literally anyone. Like, he writes with so many people, has lots of projects going on. He keeps himself going a lot as a songwriter, which I very much admire. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. And that's a really nice story about him starting writing with you straight away. One of the things I was going to go back to, what you mentioned about when you do the workshops and you set an exercise, and then it kind of inspires you to have a go at it yourself. Is one of the things that I think is really interesting with like songwriting, and I guess it's probably true of all creative stuff, that like exercises that might be designed for a beginner can be just as effective with somebody who's been writing songs for 25 years. It's it's that kind of the starting point is kind of, it's still useful for everyone, isn't it? Like however you start your song.
Absolutely, yeah.
I
It's
feel like
that whole
in
coming on the page thing again, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like
just making that time to do it, because otherwise, when would you?
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
mind sharing some of the kind of things that you do in your workshops, of like some of the kind of, or
Yeah,
is that private for people signing up?
oh no, well, it's just a variety of exercises, really, just to get something on the page, if you will. So there's all sorts of ones, and the one I was going to talk about today would be the limerick. The limerick idea is a really good one. I'm very happy to share that. And for anybody who might not know what a limerick is, I know most people do. My best example of describing a limerick is it's the first verse of Hickory Dickory Dock, nursery rhyme. That is a limerick, basically. Hickory Dickory Dock, the mouse ran up the clock. Clock struck one, the mouse ran down. Hickory Dickory Dock. So I often get people towards the end of the day actually to do a limerick. And it's funny because I associate, and a lot of people associate limericks with humour. So you do get people doing funny ones, and then you get some people doing the serious ones. And that's just a very structured way of writing what I would consider a verse, or it could be a chorus. And so, you can totally start off with like, one line like, I woke up today feeling blue. So what I would do is I'd put, I woke up today feeling blue. I woke up today feeling blue again. Something else, something else, something else, something else. I woke up today feeling blue. So that's your starting point. So then, because a limerick, of course, the first and the second and the last line rhyme, and they scan the same in the middle two. So lines 4, 3 and 4, they just rhyme with each other, and they're generally short. It's 5 lines. It's basically Hickory Dickory Dock. And so then, so I woke up today feeling blue. I thought, oh no, what will I do? I went to the sink and I got a drink, and thought about me and of you. Then you've got, you just slightly change it, and then that's really silly lyrics. But if you just start off with 3 lines the same and 2 lines the same, and then change them, and then you could just get a bit of an idea there. And then you could completely break out the limerick as well, and it doesn't have to be in that sing-song format. It just might give you an idea. So the limerick is brilliant. And my other tip is, I got this from Boo, and it's a book of idioms. And you can get this book free. It's literally a penny or free on eBay or Amazon Marketplace, and you just pay the postage. So you're looking at £2.76. And it's so great. I have to put my glasses on. So I went and bought one, and I keep one out. And basically, if you set an exercise and somebody is stuck for a theme, I always give the theme of love. That's my favourite theme. In particular, disastrous heartbreak, gut-wrenching misery kind of love song.
Subgenre of love song.
Yeah. And then, but it's things like a kettle of fish. I wouldn't have known what an idiom was. A Kick in the Teeth, and it's just great to dip in the Pink, Come Down the Pipe. Let's see.
And then, so then does the book have the descriptions of what the idioms all mean?
It does, actually. Yeah. So here we go. Move heaven and earth. Usually, oh, hang on a minute. Make extraordinary efforts. Yeah. What else have we got? All hell broke loose or was let loose. Suddenly there was chaos or uproar. Informal in brackets. So good if you just want a theme. And especially in the context of a songwriting workshop where you've got like 30 minutes to come back, because everybody goes off. And this hotel, and I think Boo does the same, because he's often said, oh, you should do a weekend, Edwina, and, you know, find a place where you basically factor in the cost of the room and some meals, and then you put it together and add a little bit on for yourself and advertising. I've never done a weekend, I've just done an afternoon, so there's nothing to pay for. All I do is add on like $9.99 for the carvery, that's it. And so there's but people come and so they go off and do their exercises and they have like half an hour and they come back, sort of thing. So yeah, this can be just handy if you just if you think, what can I write about, you know, because it is an unreal situation, but the hotel's really rambly and lovely, and since lockdown actually they now close on a Sunday at 3. So what I do now is I do a carvery lunch at 2. So the carvery normally finishes at 2. They keep it going till 3. So people come at 2 and they get their carvery, and then if it's a meet and greet in a sort of separate little bit of the dining room, which is nice. And then everybody goes, and then once we finish, we move through into the bar, which is now empty. And the lovely couple that run the hotel, they just hang out there on a Sunday and have their own Sunday dinner and chill and watch the telly. So what Rita will do about 5:30, 6, she'll put a massive tray of tea, coffee and biscuits and cakes together so we can have a break. And then we go through till 8. So people, it's so funny, they literally all wander off to all the different corners of the hotel, take their guitars or just their pads and pens, just so they can be on their own. So it's nice if you're doing a workshop to pick somewhere where you're not all just around the same table the whole time. People need to go off and have some time. So but normally I set lyric exercises to keep it nice and easy. But a lot of the people that book on already maybe play an instrument. So when they come back and they read it out, I say, how many of you guys have had a bit of a melody idea as well? And they go, oh, me. So then the next thing is they go off and put a melody to it, or they can swap with someone else, which I always think is a nice thing to do. So for people who aren't that confident about putting a melody to their own words, if they swap with someone else, they find it easier to just, like we were saying earlier, if you take someone else's, it's a pressure off a bit, really. And then also you think, well, I want to do a nice job for this person, his lyrics. And that can work really well. But then you get people who go, oh, no, I already had an idea. I'm going to work on that. And it's great. It's so great. And then they come back and then they play or just sing their what they've done melody by. It's brilliant. I really love it. It's
that's great, Edwina. Yeah, and I'll put all the links in the description of the episode to your like social media page and your website and things like that. So if you're doing any ones in the future and anybody listening to this wants to go along,
I don't do them very often, I will say, but I'm always available to email about anything. And Boo, as I say, Boo often is hosting something. He does his Scotland ones because there's a company called, speaking of songwriting, called Arvon. Sounds like Avon. Arvon. And there's a makeup thing called Arbon, not them, Arvon. And if you Google them, he used to do a lot. He was one of their songwriters, so they would hire him and pay him to come and do a weekend or a week course. And so I think he was really pleased when he found the Scotland Moniac one, because then he could hire it himself and bring his own people in. So he'll have people like Finley Napier come and be a co-tutor, or me. And then he's got lots of musician friends to ask to be the guest on the Wednesday. There's always a guest on the Wednesday. That's the way the format works, even if it's, you know, writing a thriller or something. They always have a guest, you know, guest novelist or something.
Yeah.
So Boo's invited some lovely guests. Martin Stevenson one time, and Karine Polwalk came one time. And anyway, so then he's also developed it a bit more, and he does some courses that are aimed at people who already perform, who might want to make a CD. So he's got a friend who's got all this recording gear. So one of the courses you can do with Boo is you can come and write your songs, and then you can record them at the end, the last day. So all sorts of really great stuff. So anybody listening to this is really fancies a course. I mean, I'm not trying to put myself down, but I only do them now and again, and it's 100 years, it's a long way. Boo does them all around, and I would really recommend having a look at Boo's website, see if he's got any coming up. And he's really funny, and he's really good. Everything I've learned, I feel like I've learned from him, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Good recommendation, and they're really good for whatever level of songwriting you are, aren't they? If you've never written a song before and you just want to start, they're a great place to get started. Or if you've been writing songs for years and you just want to try something different,
Oh my God, totally. And the standard is just amazing. The last one I did was in July here in Fairfield. I don't know when this is going out, but we're recording it. We're just coming up to it. We just had the August bank holiday, haven't we? So it was a month or so ago. And there were a couple of people there who were real beginners, and the people who put themselves down the most and they go, "Oh, I'm so rubbish," and apologizing, they come up with the most wonderful ideas. I was blown away. The standard is just incredible. You know, it's amazing. It's a bit, I would say, music and songwriting, anything where you're in a group situation with it. It reminds me of going to Slimming World, because I go to Slimming World. There's always somebody heavier than you, and there's always somebody slimmer than you, and you find yourself sort of in the middle. And it's I would say that's the same with songwriting workshops, you know. So it's a bit nerve-wracking, but everybody always has a nice time. So.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, thanks, Edwina.
You're welcome.
So I was going to say we're moving to section 2 now, but I think you've given us the songwriting tip you were going to give us.
My idioms I have.
So yeah, section 2, we're not asked for a songwriting tip, but yeah, Edwina's told us already, I think, of using the idioms as a starting point.
Yes.
Is that correct?
And another thing I often talk about is when you just like, however you listen to music, if it's in the car, if it's a CD you like, or if you're listening to the radio, there's something I had never thought about until I did a songwriting course, was song structures. And so when I've written my first few songs, I didn't think about whether they were chorus songs or whether they had different sections and things like that. So the main way that people describe parts of songs in general, the general term, it's in letters. So you'll have an A part and a B part and a C part and a D part. And basically any bits of a song, you probably know this already, that are the same, like the same bits, the same melody or the same section, that they're always referred to by that one letter. So you might have a song, let's say you've got a song that has verse 1, A, verse 2, A again, different bit, sort of a middle 8 bridgey bit, that would be your B part, it's different. And then the fourth bit would be a verse the same as the verse 2. So that would be A. So it would go A, B, A. And so I talk a bit about that. And it's interesting, if you listen to something on the radio, you can start listening to songs and sort of taking being aware of what different sections there are in them, and whether they have a chorus. If it's like A, B, A, B, A, B, a B part's normally the chorus. So if you had a song like Knocking on Heaven's Door, for example, there's only 2 bits in that. There's an A part and a B part, and you've got your verse, you know, Mama, take this bed off me. And then it goes knock, knock, knocking on heaven's door. And that's your B part. And it's interesting to hear. And you think, oh, so that's something quite interesting. If you want to get into songwriting, you can it can help you a bit, because if you've started a song idea and it feels a bit all over the place, you can think, well, what have I got here? So this first bit, that would be A. And where does this bit go? Well, if I make that the same as the first bit, that could be the second verse, you know, if it's maybe going all over. And then you've got a specific way of structuring your song. I hope that's not too waffly. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And
so I was just going to say, without knowing it, my first few songs, I was writing them very much in the pattern of the song by Carole King, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, which is one of my favorites. Now, Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow, that would be an A, B, A format. First verse, second verse, bit that's different. Tonight with words on. And then the third verse is the same as the first. So I'd like to know that your love, and that pattern, I didn't realize I've been literally writing Will You Still Love Me Tomorrow for like 5 years when I started, and I have no idea. I think it's just a framework, it's just a pattern of a song that I really like.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it is you can do, and now Carole King, she does her A, but what you can do when it's finished, you can do a little instrumental and then repeat your B and the A again at the end. That's another pattern I do a lot. And that's just that's just basically we used to love me tomorrow. And that's a really nice pattern. It's one of my favorites.
It is funny, isn't it? How like I've spoken to a lot of songwriters who have a similar thing where they haven't realised they've been doing it, but they use a similar structure, and it kind of like it makes sense, doesn't it? If there's particular influences that you really like, then that structure just works for the way you express yourself. And just to clarify for anyone listening who might not know, so what I've been talking about there, that the sections would be the same musically, wouldn't it? So for example, the A section would be, so if that was your verses, you'd have the same melody each time, but the lyrics would probably be different for your verses, and the chorus would generally be the same lyrics and the same music. That's one of the key differentiators between verses and chorus, isn't it? Is that your verses will tell more of the story and have different lyrics, whereas the chorus tends to be the same lyrics. Sometimes with slight changes.
Knocking on Heaven's Door is actually a great example of that.
It is,
and to make it even more simple, it's the same melody for the chorus and the verse, the same chords and everything. That I find that a really good example of a good chorus song. Quite good. Another little exercise I tend to do as well, it's a really nice one to throw in at the end, is to get everybody to just go off for 10 minutes with the idiom book and write a chorus. And it could be Knocking on Heaven's Door, which is the same line. Knock, knock, knocking on Heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on Heaven's door. Knock, knock, knocking on Heaven's door. Feel like I'm knocking on Heaven's door. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler. So I get them all to go off, and it's amazing what people come back with. And again, they go, but now I've got an idea for a whole song. and so that's another really nice one. And your chorus can literally be 3 words, in a line, and that line repeated 3 times. It's so simple. So
and sometimes like that simplicity and repetition is so kind of important, isn't it? And I think when people start with songwriting, it can be easy to like want to write loads. Whereas a lot of time it is like you might only need like one line like that and then just repeat it. And so something about the repetition that can change meanings of things, can it, or really emphasize it more? And
absolutely, and really good for people joining in as well. And another thing about what I've noticed in songwriting workshops is that when everybody comes back and they perform their songs, and this is mainly after they've gone away. So first of all, they go off and do a few lyrics, come back, and then they go off, read them out. We all read them out. It's all breaking, it's reading them, getting over that a bit embarrassing thing. And then everybody goes off and puts melody or to it or to someone else's. And when people are doing the melodies, what I find so interesting when they're singing them, as somebody who's not heard that song before, you can kind of guess where they're going to go with the melody. And when it does, it's really satisfying. And I always say that a song will quite often tell you where it wants to go. It will really will. So sometimes, and I'll usually at the end as well suggest ideas that they don't have to take. But for example, somebody might play a verse, and then before the second, they do a second verse. Before they go into the second verse, they might end on a major, but I might say, why don't you just end on the minor there, and bit of tension, and then you know that it needs to go into the second verse. And then when you finish your second verse, end on the major, and little bits and bobs like that. And it's so much fun. But I don't know if you find this too, but if you're listening to a song you haven't heard before, you almost know where it's going before it does. And I think that's the sign of a good song, when you feel like it sounds familiar and you know where it's going to go into the chorus. And if it didn't go there, it would be weird. It's quite interesting. And songs sort of tell you where they want to go. I think sometimes it's quite good.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's great, Edwina.
Maureen went peacefully, and she went in my arms. I could speak to her, but it wasn't enough. There were still things I wanted to say to her. But the end product, even now I can't believe it. I think it's wonderful, and it encapsulates everything of what I wanted it to do. And if I'm feeling down, I can play that, and hopefully it'll lift me up. And if I'm feeling high, let's Let's think about the good times.
If you would like to help more people like John write songs in memory of loved ones, please donate to the Swan Song Project today. Brilliant. Let's move into section 3 now, shall we? This is where I ask my guests for a song that's meaningful to them in some way relating to bereavement. So which song have you chosen for us for this section, Edwina?
Well, I've chosen a song written by a very dear friend of mine, Linda Kelly, and the song that she wrote is called The Luckiest Sailor. And she wrote it was actually inspired by her husband and a big trawler disaster that happened in the 60s in Hull. And in fact, at that time, I think there were three trawler disasters all around the same time, which was awful. So there was a ship called the Peridot had gone off, and Linda's husband, who she wasn't married to at the time, she met him a lot later, but he was a very young sailor, and he wasn't on that. He'd actually decided to have a bit of shore leave because he was struggling money wise. I think he decided something along. I might get this a bit wrong, but he just decided to take a bit of time off the boat to get a day job, and he just needed to sort out his money, and he wasn't very old. And anyway, he got the news that this ship had gone down and everybody died, all his mates, and he couldn't understand why it was them and not him. And one of the lines in the song that's really poignant is he said he got the news, and then he felt the jingle of the money in his pocket and wished he could just give it back. He didn't want it, and he wished he was with his friends. And so it's a really amazing song, and she wrote it. And over the years, just quietly, I think people would have just heard her singing it at Cottingham Live. She's a lovely singer, a cappella singer. And what often happens at folk clubs, and a lot of the songs I first ever learned to sing and play, the ones I would hear that people did at the folk club. I used to go to the Bridlington Folk Club, and I used to hear songs that were wonderful and go and learn them, and I was so inspired, and heard all these lovely old folk songs as well. So people gradually started covering Linda's song, and if you Google it, it's been covered by a lot of different people. Anyway, more recently, there's a really lovely Hull-based male singing group. Anybody can join. It's just for people who want to maybe do a bit of singing, and they're in sort of this. It's kind of like a big barbershop quartet, but there's loads of them, and they do little gigs. And I got asked to do a charity gig in Bransburton with them. I was going to do the first half, and they were going to finish, and it was a lovely night. And unbeknown to me, I didn't know they did Linda's song, and then they all dressed up a little bit as well in sort of waistcoats and caps, and they did this song, and you could have heard a pin drop. It was unbelievable how amazing it was. And I said to them afterwards, wow, that my friend Linda wrote that. And I said, well, actually, we know. He said that we entered a competition with it last year, and we won, and Linda came to the final, and she was so proud. So that's the song I thought would be really nice to have played, and then we can talk a bit more about Linda afterwards, I think.
Yeah, lovely. So yeah, this is The Luckiest Sailor.
Hull, January 1968, and the nation is shocked by the news. The triple trawler tragedy, with 58 men dead.
I'm going over. Send my love on the cruise love to the Whiteson families.
I've been fishing the sea since a lad of 15. Not a stretch of the ocean that I haven't been. And I've seen northern lights and the whalefish at play. Been drunk on the dog watch and find half me pay. And I've prayed long and hard in a westerly storm. And I've dreamt of the young girls who helped keep me warm. And I've sat with the old jacks and listened with glee to the tales of the women, the drink and the sea. I'm the luckiest sailor that Hull ever knew. When the Kingston ship sank with the loss of her crew. And I prayed for their lives, sons and their wives, on the day that the Peridot perished. I was a young sailor with settle in hand, from trawling in Iceland with whitefish to land. And I'm dressed to the nines, hipping rocker back tails, and I'm off to the street lucky to sing a few ales, and I'll tell you a tale of the taxman and me. He's been robbing me blind since I first went to sea. So I says to the skipper, I'll spend time ashore. I'll be damned if that taxman will have any more. I'm the luckiest sailor that Hull ever knew. When the Kingston ship sank with the loss of her crew, and I prayed for their lives, sons and their wives, on the day that the buried dog perished. Well, a whisper was heard that a Hull ship was down, with no chance of a rescue. Her men had all drowned, and I supped up me ale, and I knew in my head that the Hull ship was my ship, and me mates were all dead. And the coins in my pocket weighed heavy that day, and it took me no courage to give them away. And my mind took me back to those long days at sea, and I asked the good Lord why me mates and not me. I'm the luckiest sailor that Hull ever knew. When the Kingston ship sank with the loss of her crew, and I prayed for their lives, sons and their wives, on the day that the buried dog perished. I'm the luckiest sailor that Hull ever knew. When the Kingston ship sank with the loss of her crew, and I prayed for their lives, sons and their wives, on the day that the buried dog perished.
Okay, brilliant. So that was The Luckiest Sailor. Yeah, it's a really, really powerful song. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, something so special. I guess, like it's such a tradition of folk songs, isn't it, of having songs about big events in the community and having something about having ones that feel more recent and knowing people involved feels very special, doesn't it? And such a great thing for her to have done, to have been able to capture it, capture such a complicated and difficult feeling. Yeah, the line what you were talking about from the last verse, about wondering why it was my mates and not me, really hits hard, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. I think because Linda and her husband met kind of late on. She married in her 40s, and so she was already, I think, part of the Cottingham Live Club then, and at some point he must have told her, his involvement with that. She would have known about it, and she was inspired to write it. But she's written other songs too. Anyway, the reason I chose this one is because Linda very sadly and very suddenly passed away about 10 days ago, and we were all very, very shocked and surprised. And so it's just sinking in really, and her funeral's going to be on the 9th of September, so I'm not sure when this is going out. But anyway, so obviously everybody's going, and I think the Humber Harmony might be coming along to perform that. And also the couple who run the Beverley Folk Club, which is a very old folk club as well, and they are the Rosie and her husband. They're going to possibly perform a couple of Linda's songs as well, so it'll be a very moving day, and big surprise, because I started off, as I mentioned, singing at folk club, singing covers, and that was 94 when I first got up and sang in front of somebody I didn't know. So it was actually 30 years ago this year. And for the next 2 years, I went to any open mic. I didn't think of them as open mics. I thought of them as singers' night. I hadn't heard the phrase open mic at that point. So I went to as many as I could and learnt lots of songs. And I had a great big cassette player thing. And I used to buy tapes and buy Nancy Griffith and Mary Black and Bob Dylan and then learn these songs. And it was exciting having somewhere to go to play them, and it was terrifying. So after 2 years, I felt like I had enough songs and maybe enough nerve to try and get a paid gig. And I went asking all around Bridlington in all the pubs I could have a gig, and one guy gave me a gig. So in that was in '96. So in 2 years, a year after next, it'd be my 30th anniversary of starting showbiz, which is just basically being paid to sing. That's how and I bought a mic stand. I bought a little PA system out of paper. I've still got the mic stand, and I do gigs now with people who are younger than my mic stand because it'll be 30. So massive, big old thing, and I really love it. So that's just anyway. So one of the places that was really influential to me, and I still go actually, is Cottingham Live, and it meets on a Wednesday. And they'll book me to do a gig every year or two, and I was just, I don't even care what they give me. Of course, I'll play, but it's just nice to go along if a friend of mine's playing, or there's a special singers night, or, and Linda's always there, so it could be real sad without her, and yeah, a big loss.
Yeah, very sorry for your loss. That's, I mean, it's a lovely thing that the songs will get played at the funeral, and I'm sure will live on for a long time at these clubs of people singing them and sharing memories of her.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, yeah, thanks a lot for your time, Edwina. It's been really nice talking to you.
Oh, Ben, it's been a real pleasure. And it's flown. I feel like I just sat down 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, it flies by.
It does. It really does. I don't know if you can see, but I was just telling you for any audience members, I was just getting ready, putting a bit of makeup. I poked myself in the eye with my mascara. I do that all the time, and then of course you blink and you end up with a massive ring, and then you try and get it off and you rub all the rest of your makeup off. This is the kind of thing that happens to me. And so I was fiddling about with my eye before going. I shouldn't have said it really. Shouldn't have mentioned it really. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
And your charity, what you do, just unbelievable and so amazing. I should be really proud. And I'm so glad I heard about you through my lovely friend Holly. And yes, long may you continue. And anything I can ever do to support, let me know.
Thank you very much, Edwina. I appreciate it. And yeah, as I say, I'll put all your links in the description. So if you're listening wants to find out more about Edwina and listen to more of her music, you can follow the links and check her out. And yeah, she's always out and about gigging. So check the gig list as well. She might be coming somewhere near soon. Cool. Thanks a lot, Edwina. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. I'll be back with another episode soon.